And I can't tell which side.
Hold on, I'll come over.
You know how it is having kids.
Dress you right there.
So my wife was already gone to work when I got dressed this morning.
Yeah? Were the lights off in the house too?
No, but why would I want to look in the mirror or anything?
What's the whole thing where in school, like in high school, you go to school and your shirt's on backwards. You always go, what did you do, dress yourself in the dark? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
My water bottle's over there.
Way over there. Out of range.
Tie my hands together so I can't tap stuff.
Okay. Here we go.
Now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
I'm gonna get that
We take you
off.
behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Season 3, the best podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF accreditation. This week, we're going to talk about, welcome back to Season 3, the ins and outs of what's been going on here in the past couple weeks, and can my horse go barefoot, and the factors to consider. All this and much, much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far right hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you today, Travis?
I'm good. You look good. You look taller.
That's because the chair's tall.
Oh, is that what it is? So what have you been doing for the last couple of weeks on your little break there from the first season or from the second season to now? Getting in trouble?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I'm sure I've done something to bother someone.
Well, in celebration of Season 3, I got you a little gift here. And actually, let me open the bag so it doesn't take forever for you to do it on the air. So I got you a little gift. Now, don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. And you can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. He's getting a bunch of followers over there on your YouTube channel. He keeps posting all these different videos and all these articles and stuff on his Facebook page. So if you want to follow him, make sure you like and subscribe to him over there on Facebook. That's Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. And you can also find him on YouTube as well. And make sure you like and subscribe. There you go, Mike. Can you grab that for me? There you go. So I got you a bunch of those so you can hand out to all your friends and family. Well, can you describe it a little bit of what it is?
This is
Yeah.
one of these. One of these.
They're buttons. They're
Yes.
They're buttons. They're little 1-inch round Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine podcast buttons.
Start wearing them in my suspenders.
There you go. And make sure you hand them out to all there.
And hand them out and all that.
Yeah, there you go. So I figured I'd get you a little something special.
Cool.
So while we were on break, Mike, and as you pull up to the property here, now for those of you who don't know, we broadcast in Marshville, Union County, North Carolina, and Mike is our farrier here on the property, and this is how we met, and this is how we became this beautiful friendship of ours. And Mike comes up. And as soon as the horses see your truck, they whinny and neigh and they do all that stuff because they know who you are and what you do to the horses to help their feet and everything.
Oh, I thought they were just saying, "Oh crap, him again."
Punishment time. Now, the last couple weeks we've been off here. Took a little break, and during that break, Mike, I bought another 450 horses.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that out there?
You must be making really, really good money doing this, buying those horses.
So my truck finally came in. We ordered it in January. We're waiting for computer chips and across the whole United States. My Chevy Silverado 2500, high country, whatever, bells and whistles, big tires. It's got 2 step ladders to get inside of it. So my truck finally came in, and I think it's more than 450 horsepower, but for the most part, I've got another 450 horses here on the property that Mike's got to shoe and maintain.
I don't think you want me working on that one.
No. All right, guys, we are going to talk about all those things that are going to happen here in Season 3. We're working on getting the Zoom call. I haven't decided if I want to do Zoom call or, Microsoft Team Meets or something like that. We're going to work on having a whole bunch of different vets, different doctors, different riders, professional riders on the show with us. So Season 3 is going to be packed full of a lot more of you getting involved. Now, this week, we also have some questions that we're going to answer. And the way you get your question in is go over to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page, hit contacts, fill out that little form there, ask your question, send it in. Make sure you put a return address, and Mike will send you out some of these buttons. He's got some magnets and stickers also he'll send out to you. And if we read your question on the air, we'll send that out to you. Mike, so what else has been going on? What have you been doing, keeping yourself busy in the last couple of weeks?
Been working, been dealing with stuff, because there's always stuff. As of last night, I will be at the Breeders' Cup.
Very good. Very nice.
I can remember back before, when my last trip to Kentucky, I took care of my thoroughbred licensing.
Right.
And we'll see where all that goes. I've got a few places that are interested in having me come down and do some hands-on demos, talks, further than ed for the horse owners.
Hold on. That's my fault. My fault. Sorry, everyone at home. Sorry.
Maybe my phone will ring here in just a minute. It's in the truck.
That's my faux pas. I did that. That was my bad. So you're going down to, I'm sorry, start over. What were you saying? You're going down
Your phone's ringing.
Yes. You're going down to.
We're setting up a few further than ed.
Oh, yep. You're going to do, I'm sorry, let's start over. You're going to be doing some guest speaking and some extra clinic work and stuff.
Right.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about what's going on there.
Well, I've been speaking with some people in Georgia, been speaking with some people in Virginia. I've got, contacts a number of places that have been dealing with. We have discussed at some point after the talk I did in 2000 about the possibility of me going to Norway to do something more for vets and farriers.
When's the last time you've been out of the United States for a clinic or anything like this?
It's been a while. Kind of after Ray passed, I kind of dropped off, but back in 2007.
And so during this little break time that we've had here in between the two seasons, you've got a stable full of horses that you work on, numerously time in, day out. What was your biggest challenge that you came across that you're like going, you know what, that was a big challenge. I've never come across that before, and this is how I approach it. Now, I know a little bit later on.
With the owners or with the horses?
Either one. I know you had one of the owners that's what we're going to get into. The main topic today is about having your horse, can it go barefoot? Outside of that one instant right there, was there any other big challenges that you might have come across that you're like going, hey, you know what, I found this out. Remember, I talked about this type deal.
Right. There's always an odd something going on with a horse, and you got to bring in the big picture and figure out what's going on. I spent yesterday watching some horses go in a clinic, and I had to make I saw, and as watching them work, where I'm going to have to make a few minor adjustments to get better performance out of them. And some of it is just literally a bump with a rasp and figuring out where to relieve a little bit of pressure.
All right, guys, stick around. We have a big show to get into. And one of the things we're going to talk about when we come back is, why have you seen a cowboy boot on a fence, and what does it mean?
It means the cowboy lost his boot.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too when we come back. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Okay. Let's see. We don't need
My phone is in the truck.
I know. You did the right thing. I did the wrong thing this time. All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the 2017 American Eventing Championship farrier. And make sure you follow him on YouTube. He's got a lot of videos up there. And also, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video of us here in the studio. And don't forget, hi, me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. And don't forget, any articles that we read here, if I want to show you some pictures and stuff, you can see these videos in real time as we're talking about them here on live on the air. Make sure you go over there at YouTube and like and subscribe. Like I said, your numbers are going up, 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 up. I'm seeing your views over there. That Ray Morris, that 4-part series with Ray Morris, I'm seeing a lot of traction on that. People are commenting on it. And a lot of people, I'm sure, are glad to hear us back on the air for Season 3. Season 3, Mike?
Season 3. We didn't think we'd make it this far now, did we?
Well, at least one of us didn't. I don't know.
That was mostly you, right?
No, I knew we were going to do just fine.
Okay.
I knew you were going to do good as well, too, Mike. Now, driving around in this this little town, I don't want to say it's a one-horse town, pardon the pun, but in this little town that we live in, we have, I think our community has got about 2,500 people, if not around that many people in this little town of Marshville that we live in Union County, North Carolina. Sometimes you'll drive around, you'll see some odd things. You'll see some cows like you don't see in the city. City folks, when they come out, they see cows, they see, horses, of course, goats, chickens. I think someone around here has got a couple emus walking around.
Mm-hmm. I got buffalo down the road from me.
Do you really?
On the corner, yeah.
Are they buffalo or are they bison? They're the same thing.
You wouldn't want to go slap either one of them.
No.
If you want to, I'll watch.
Especially out there in Yellowstone, people are getting tossed left and right. Now, one of the things you might not notice or you might be interested in is this weird thing is when you see a cowboy boot on a fence. Now, when I say a fence, your traditional wooden posts with barbed wire to keep all the animals and stuff in. Mike, what do you think that means when you see a cowboy boot on a fence post?
I think it means the cowboy lost his boot.
What I think is almost along the same lines. You ever seen like a hubcap on the side of the road that's kind of just leaned up against a pole? Like, hey, someone took this turn a little too fast. Here's your hubcap. It's laying on the side. So I'm thinking when you say a horse has lost its shoe or his boot or a cowboy has lost his boot, he was riding too fast and his boot flew off and it's laying in dirt and someone just kind of flipped it over and stuck it up on the fence post. But what it actually means, it's kind of symbolic. You don't want to touch it because what's happening is if you see a boot on a fence post, according to classroom.com, boots aren't on a fence post as decorations. Rather, they were placed there to pay some kind of respect. Sometimes the rancher will put a boot on a post or hang a pair of boots on a fence to honor a favorite horse. Ranchers have all close relationship with their horses and have spent many years training them, caring for them. So if one dies or is sold, many ranchers will give up a pair of boots and place them on the fence to pay tribute to the animal as respect. Also, they will say that not only just animals, or if they've lost a beloved ranch hand, died of old age. A lot of times ranch hands back in the day, they lived on the property. They were part of the family. They were part of, everyday activity.
Right.
And if they've ever lost a ranch hand due to age or just moving on, they'll put usually their pair of boots on the fence. So if you ever see a pair of boots on a fence post, let it be. It's a sign of respect. It's a kind of like one of those roadside memorials. Hey, we've lost a horse. We've lost someone on our property.
Right.
So if you see that on there, so just take note of that. I don't know. I've never seen one out here. Maybe that tradition doesn't happen here in North Carolina, or at least in our part of town.
Maybe not. We might see more in Wyoming or Montana or somewhere like that.
Now, when you lose your boot, you're walking around with a bare foot. Now, you had a question from one of the owners that says, can my horse be barefooted? Now, explain, first of all, what a barefooted horse means. I mean, in layman's terms, remember who you're dealing with here. I'm talking about me, pointing to me.
Trying to forget. It's just whether the horse is wearing any kind of shoes or not.
Now, no kinds of shoes or no kind of care, or has a horse had care for the hoof already?
Well, I hope they've had some care because that can in domestic conditions can make a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But there are horses that are shod that probably should not be. There are horses that people are trying to keep barefooted that we end up seeing in the vet clinic with some problems because of too much trauma to the foot. But, it depends on the job, the conditions. Are you trail riding? Are you doing some kind of performance work? Are you on the racetrack? Where are you? What are you doing? If your horse is not extremely high stress, maybe they can go barefoot. If your horse has, part of the problem with barefooting horses is we're trying to figure out how to beat genetics sometimes.
Now, I came across an article a couple days ago that says and it's one of those articles that try to scare you into something, for the human being, 10 things that could kill you in your house, details at 11. You're like, oh, sure, don't do anything until 11 o'clock.
11:30, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. They said how dangerous it is as us as humans to walk around our own house barefooted. And basically what they were saying is you have more chance of getting, what plantar fasciitis is?
Right.
It's where your muscles don't stretch on the bottom of your foot, and sometimes they'll cut that tendon or whatever to get that muscle to. They're saying basically walking barefooted in the house is bad for you for plantar fasciitis. Now, horses, in the same sense, being barefooted, walking on a trail, walking on crush run or clay or whatever the material is. It all depends on the hoof wall.
It depends on the hoof wall. It depends on how thick the sole is. There are times when it's a good idea to barefoot horses. Your horses here are barefoot other than the one.
And the reason why the one, now let me remind people from last season, we have 4 horses here. We have 2 ponies, mother and daughter pony. We also have a mare. She's about 11 years old. She's the one that shod. And then we have Diego. He is a 4-year-old gelding, and he is not. And the 2 older horses, the mare and the gelding, my wife rides dressage. So the older one has shoes.
Right.
And the younger one does not have shoes, but my wife is still riding the same style of horses out on a crush run arena.
Right.
So why is one shod and one not?
One is the level of work. The other thing is on the one that is shod. Remember when we came in here, we had the vet out, we had an X-ray unit, we looked at joint alignment, we looked at
on which horse? I'm sorry.
On the mare.
Okay.
And we had some mechanical issues that we needed to do some things to help her out to keep her working at the level she was working. So we're taking care of that mechanically with what I'm doing on the horse's foot. It's not completely just a flat shoe nailed to the perimeter of the foot. So, we got to pay attention to where the load is around the joint, around the bone column. Do we have like on her, we had a broken back hoof pastern axis, meaning low palmar angle. And then you're getting into tendon stress, you're getting into joints absorbing impact as opposed to the muscle structure absorbing impact. And so to keep her working and doing what your wife wants to do with the problems that are showing up with her all the way up into her shoulders, all the way around your withers, which that has been also looked at by vets, and we're working together to keep her functioning. Now, if she goes out in the field, you decide to turn her into a brood mare, we're probably not going to keep shoes on her because, she can probably function okay at that. And as long as we stay on top of regular maintenance. But for her to be a performance horse, because of the bone column alignment problems in the lower end, it creates a lot of tendon stress, changes pressure on ligaments and all that. So mechanically, we reposition to where it should be to get the mechanical stress off. And most of the time when I'm shoeing a horse, it's more about that than just to protect the foot. It's more to protect the body.
So here's my question. So my wife, we did buy this brand new gelding,
right?
Because she was aware of the mare's problems, and the mare has only gotten so far. She can only do so much, and then without extensive surgery or anything like that. Don't get me wrong; she's a great horse.
Sure, she is. Beautiful mare.
She does what she's supposed to do, and she does it very well. It's kind of like having a minor league baseball player as to a professional baseball player coming up through the ranks. So the gelding is the professional baseball player coming up through the ranks, as to where the mare is now, she's in the farm league right now. She's not going to get out of the farm league.
Right.
So my question is, and we can take a break and you can gather your thoughts and answer this when we come back. So here's my question.
Thoughts.
So here's my question. Since we're going to be riding the mare, I'm sorry, I get these words confused. Since we're going to be riding the gelding a lot more strenuous, 3 times a week, hour-long lessons, lead line, doing all that stuff, and we're going to back off on the mare, and she'll probably only be on the lunge line. She might get ridden maybe once every other week just to keep her in shape.
Right.
So I guess you're saying that we can remove those shoes, and is she still going to have problems, or is she still going to maintain the ability to do the work that we're asking her to do just on a lower level?
It would definitely be on a lower level. When you remove what I've got on her feet, she's going to have to adapt. And the mechanics that I'm providing to help her out with shoes, that's going to be not there anymore. So we're going to have to figure out where we can get her to maintain.
All right, when we come back, I'm going to ask what her limitations are if we pull these shoes off of her and get Mike's response on that. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. So I guess my main question is if she's not riding her 3 or 4 times a week, technically the shoes can come off.
Technically, at a point, they probably can.
Okay, well, that's the question I want to ask when we come back. So gather your thoughts.
Right.
Got them?
The one is about that big.
Bouncing around in there.
Two brain cells might accidentally bump together.
Yeah. You remember the back of the day when you had a DVD player and it would go into the sleep mode and the little thing would bounce around the screen? You know, the DVD, the logo would bounce around or
I never had a DVD player.
Jesus, Mike, get with the times. All right.
If I had, I'd just watch the logo bouncing around.
There's a joke in there somewhere. All right, ready?
Yes.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the official farrier of the 2018 World Equestrian Games. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video. You can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. And you can hear some of our silly conversations that we have during the break about DVD logos bouncing around on the screen. Mike, you never had a DVD player?
Never had a DVD player.
Well, how did you watch?
I'm still trying to figure out how to program a VCR.
Trying to get the clock from stopping from blinking 12? At least it's right twice a day, right?
That's right.
All right. So the question I posed to Mike was, our mare was doing most of the show work that my wife was wanting to do to achieve her goals. The mare has issues and stuff, not any fault of my wife, just the nature of what the horse is and what the horse has become to be. So my wife has purchased this other gelding, superstar rock star horse is what I'm going to call him for now. What? You looked at me like with eyebrows raised.
You think that new truck was expensive? You've seen nothing yet.
I know, exactly. So my question is, now that my wife's not going to be riding the mare as often, as frequently, and so the demand on her feet is not going to be as much. Like she might have her on a lead line and do a couple in the round pen, trot, jog, whatever, I don't know the terminology, just to get the horse in some kind of physical activity and might ride her in the arena for like 30 minutes once a week, once every other week, just to keep her in shape. And now the new gelding is going to be taking up more of the time as far as being a more performance horse. So my question is, if and when or how should we take the shoes off of the mare's feet, hoofs?
Which one?
All of them. Do you ever shoe just the front and not the back?
I shoe just the front and not the back. There's occasions where I shoe the back and not the front.
Is there any time that you've shoed just like the front right side, driver's side, passenger side horse or anything, or no? Does that make sense?
Well, in special situations, you do special things sometimes to get a horse out of some kind of trouble.
Mm-hmm. So have you shoed just one foot at any time or opposite foot, the front right passenger or the back driver side?
I have had cases because of, just for say, you got a canker, you remove a canker, they're trying to keep costs down, maybe the canker foot is taken down to a little nub, and we have to do hospital plates and all that. Typically, I would probably do both, but there have been a situation because for temporary reasons, yes, I have put a shoe, some kind of appliance on one side to take care of a problem. So
we're trying to get the mare back to a barefoot, I guess is what the whole topic of this conversation is. What are going to be some issues that I'm going to be looking at as far as trying to get the horse back on bare ground?
Take your shoes off and run up down the driveway.
No, I've got gravel on my driveway.
Okay, do it anyway.
I don't want to.
Why not?
Because it hurts my feet.
Okay.
I was going to say it gives me plantar fasciitis.
Well, it might. So if we just immediately pull the shoes and the workload The workload's going to have to change.
Okay.
I don't know how she's going to react. We will probably start stepping some things down to kind of ease her out of what we're doing mechanically. We may, right now, I've got leather, small degree leather pad in there. We may remove that for a while and start turpentining and stuff to give the foot a chance, toughen it up before we get the shoes off. The other thing is the hoof wall itself is going to have to adjust.
Because it's relying on the shoe for support.
Support and stability, yes.
So you're saying the hoof wall's got to toughen up and do its job now.
Yes, exactly. Everything has to start toughening up. And the process of reconditioning that foot's going to take a year.
Oh, really? That long?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because if it takes a year to grow a foot, as far as what's happening with the growth of the hoof wall changing because of pressures changing, that starts at the coronary band, and then it grows down. And as it grows down, then the hoof wall structure will change some, and it takes close to a year to work that all the way down to the ground of the toe of the foot. It's faster at the back. The other thing is, since she has worn the leathers, okay, you work. Well, maybe you do some yard work. I don't know.
I do yard work. I do lots of yard work. We have, 22 some odd acres here. Someone's got to do it. My dad can only mow so much of the property here without getting stuck in a tree somewhere.
Well, I guess he needs to do more than, doesn't he?
Probably.
Do you wear gloves?
I do wear gloves.
Let's throw them away.
Okay. Now I'm gloveless.
Now you're gloveless. And you go out there and you start handling whatever you handle.
Briars,
chainsaws, all that. How are your hands going to be at the end of the day?
Rough and raw.
Rough and raw. Okay. If you just go take those shoes off that horse directly and expect her to keep going at the level she is, she's going to be running on rough and raw.
So if we took the shoes off, now she's got her own little pasture in the back. Mm-hmm. It's probably maybe 3/4 of an acre, if not a full acre back there. And so she can run around, and it's nice, soft, green, lush grass. We seeded it many years ago, and it's doing well. Mm-hmm. Can she just run around on that and only do like maybe round trot the lunge lining for a little bit?
I'd have to see how she reacts. If she gets too sore, we're going to have to back off of her. The goal is for her not to be that sore, and spending a little time before the shoes come off, doing what we need to do to prep the foot for it, will help minimize that downtime.
See, the way I look at it, Mike, is because my wife, since she's not riding that mare 3 times, if not 4 times a week, the shoes on, it's like being a professional athlete. She doesn't need the $300 Michael Jordan shoes on her feet, because she's only going to play, maybe 2 or 3 minutes in a basketball game, and then she's out for the rest of the game, that type deal. So
sure.
So she doesn't need she might need the Fila ones, the cheaper ones down the road.
Get you some flip-flops.
Yes. Crocs,
whatever. But, nowadays there are a lot of hoof boots made that have there's a lot of companies out there making them. As far as which one's best, it depends on the shape of the foot. And I've had people go through every boot known to man. And some of them can't be happy. Some of them can be. Some of them find something that works well for them. I went through a spell I used to do some distance horse work, endurance horses. And there's a fair amount of them that will use a boot. But the problem we ran into is the horses that were working for the top 10s that were going for the speed. You were completing fine in boots. They were going for top 10s. They were going for, we're going to be in the hunt to win. All that. I've had horses that were just exploding the boots on their feet. But to do, a long distance now used to be 6 or 8 miles an hour. Now it's more like 10 to 12 to 14 miles an hour.
Wow.
Over a long distance. Well, these horses are going to end up galloping a good bit. It's not like you're going on a trail ride. On a trail ride, you can do a lot. The other problem is in a situation where, like your wife's horse, I'm doing some things mechanically to help the bone column out. And are we going to be able to provide that with a boot temporarily? Maybe, maybe not. I can't do but so much with that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is giving the horse time to adapt. I had a situation here a few years ago where somebody was bound to determine that they wanted to barefoot their horse. And this was a horse that was always notoriously thin-soled. And, they insisted that's what they wanted to do. We just wanted off here right now, but they wanted to keep up. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. And so they went and they did just that. And they were asking, well, is this horse going to be sore? I'm like, yes, it is. How long? A while, a good while.
And when you say a while, good while, I'm thinking 5-6 weeks. You're thinking,
in some cases, it's months.
yes.
And this was one of those horses that was going to fall in that category. So a week later, they're furious because their horse was tenderfooted. I was no longer involved in that case. The horse was also one that notoriously had low palmar angles, negative palmar angles, that sort of deal. So by the time it was over with, the horse went through a vet clinic and doing x-rays, doing gels, doing a lot of stuff because the horse was not wearing it, just pulling them out. I think their expectation was, I'll pull the shoes off. I've seen a bunch of articles about this, and I'm going to perform and do what I've been doing here in the next week. And I was like, no, you're not. And, it's like they asked me, how long is the horse going to be sore? I mean, a while, as in we will see when it's over with.
Right. Yeah, it's open. So if you pull the shoes off of the mare and we don't work her, can you still achieve the same, with the low palmar angles or whatever that the mare is dealing with just by trimming and cutting and doing all that stuff to the actual hoof? Can you still achieve the same thing, having the horse barefoot and still getting the right angles and all that, if she's not, quote unquote, being worked like she is now?
It will be easier if you get the rider off of them.
All right, so if you've got shoes on the horse and you're trying to get the horse barefooted, you're basically saying the horse is not going to be used for what it's supposed to be used for.
But here's part of the deal that does not get figured into the equation a lot. Your plantar cushion, which is over top of your frog, that kind of pressure will kind of lift that coffin bone on those low palmar angle horses. Now, when you do a dissection on a hoof, it is very white, very fascia, very little blood flow. And if you take it apart, it's pretty much white. It's fascia, cartilagey, that kind of deal.
Ooh.
And there's not a lot of blood flow. When you get to your lateral cartilages on either side, they're very vascular. The problem with some of these horses that have had problems long term, over time, you lose some of that plantar cushion. Some of them you lose a significant amount of the plantar cushion, and is created by downforce, inverted horse, bad saddle fit, incompetent farrier work. Anything that kind of inverts that horse, causes them to drop in the middle, will try to start pressing that angle down. That's shod or unshod. Now, a farrier needs to keep ahead of that. If they don't have the skills, well, we're beating up that area. And then there again, when I'm working in the vet clinic, we bring them in, we shoot x-rays, we do what we need to do, and we take care of it. So if you've beat the bejesus out of it, and it's like your new truck, if you got a flat tire, we really can't put air back in that tire. That does not regenerate well. The lateral cartilages, if you've damaged them quite a bit. I was working with Dick Mansman. He ran podiatry unit for NC State. Been involved in numerous projects over the years. And Dr. Mansman's deal was, because of compression in the back of the foot, because of all the downforces because of what we do to them as a horse. If we start losing that lateral cartilage, if we've lost 3 millimeters, 5 millimeters, 7 millimeters of the lateral cartilage, about the best recovery you can expect is about 1 millimeter a year. Now, the other end of that is, have we developed scarring within the lateral cartilages? Because if you've scarred it, that scarring is not going to want to reinflate. Scar tissue doesn't stretch well. So if we've beat it up and we've damaged it, we've scarred in the lateral cartilages, we may not be able to get that back to pristine conditions. So that's going to make a difference in how that foot's going to react after we pull the shoes off. Now, I've heard people, well, that never happens on a barefoot horse. It does. Because of some of the very same reasons. If you're constantly riding that horse inverted, the back dropped out, everything that drops it up here, there's a direct mechanical force between up and round and down and flat. So the reason we are shoeing the horses typically is not because they got a little tenderfoot or because they walked across your driveway. It's because of what's going on up here. If when you're dealing with performance issues, when you're dealing with lameness issues, you're paying attention to what's going on in the body of the horse. If I've got to support tendons and ligaments, we're not shoeing the horse for the horse. We're shoeing the horse for what the people do to them. And people are, well, I want to be completely natural with the horse. Completely natural, the horse is not riding them and not having them obese and really not having them in fences.
Right.
But, you know, I've had Mustangs. I've got a Mustang. Mustangs never had shoes on. Mustang, you could run them down a railroad track. And, you know, part of the problem you run into is there's a lot of stuff written. And, you know, it's like when I go to clinics, which I do a lot of, the clinics I'm going to is research-based material. You and me come up with a lot of theories on this, but is it factual or not? But I cannot take your wife's horse, I cannot take the thoroughbred off the racetrack and barefoot it and end up with a foot on it like Mustang Sally.
It just won't, it'll never get there.
Genetically, it's not there. And we've bred a lot of toughness out of horses where in his situation with selective breeding, you know, we bred for speed, we bred for a certain conformation, we bred for the problem with your wife's horse's neck because we thought that was, well, you take your range horse. They bred for tough because the ones that were not tough, they're not there. They don't reproduce. A wolf, a big cat, not be able to keep up with the herd, took them out of the gene pool. So can we reproduce that? Not really. Can I keep that Mustang's foot as tough as it was the first time I saw him when he was come out of the Nevada range? It was lava rock country, high desert,
dry,
tough, hard. As far as the consistency of his hoof walls, they're 3 times as thick as most horses his size. They're harder than most horses' size. Are they as hard as they were when he was even a year off the range? No, they're not, because they've adapted to a softer condition. The other end is if you got a thin sole horse and you're traumatizing that sole and they're constantly blowing abscesses, eventually those horses, some of them will end up in the vet clinic, some of them will end up retired or whatever. But one thing that we typically do is when we take radiographs, because these horses, I'm not going to work on it until I see what's going on. When you start seeing skyline shots, start seeing perimeter rim damage. If you're taking little tiny chips out of the coffin bone, they abscess. That's what gets rid of the little chip. I've had horses that have, because a leg's not straight and we've gotten bone erosion on one side because the leg is offset from the one side, we've been barefooting it for 6 or 7 years, 8 years and fixing it. And all of a sudden it's getting where it can't walk and you go in there. Well, we can't get rid of that damage. So how you prep a foot, I do not want to throw them right on their soles. and that's a whole nother long story. But when you start eroding away the coffin bone, remodeling the coffin bone, traumatizing the coffin bone too much, that can create some irreversible damage. I've had horses that have come in that have had chunk knocked out of the coffin bone, the size, if you looked at the skyline, the size of my thumbnail on the side that's got one, because the one stays knocked off. And that did not end well. So there are no magic cures, and we got to pay attention to what's actually going on. And that's why, I work with several vet clinics. If you got one coming in, well, it's got problems, I just want you to do this, and fix it. No, we're going to follow protocol, and we're going to know exactly what's going on, and we will deal with it. We're not going to guess.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, I'm going to dive into the modern-day pentathlon. You know what that is, Mike? It's an Olympic.
It's use pins.
Yes, it's an Olympic event, and they're taking something out and replace it with something that I never thought would have happened. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Got a little long there, Mike. That's okay. Trim it down. You got your point across.
Well, if we need to drop some of it, then we'll do that.
Let's see. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He is now a certified thoroughbred farrier through the Kentucky Horse Rating Commission. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video. You can see us on the video here over on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe him over there. And also, if you have any questions for Mike Stine, go over to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page, fill out the little form there. Make sure you put a return address, and Mike will send you out some stickers, some magnets. He's got some Season 3 buttons over there. He'll send those out to you as well. And if we read your question on the air, even if we don't read the question on the air, we appreciate you guys just listening to us and being part of the show. And the way you do that is to go over there and ask your question for Mike Stine. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. And actually, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission would call that licensing.
Oh, it's licensing, not a certification. All right, now hold on. I got to shut everything down.
We got to do the whole thing all over
right, we got to
again.
start from the beginning. Welcome to Equine Day. No, I'm just kidding. So it's a licensing, not a certification, which is totally different in that world. Now, something that's happening totally different in this world right here is the modern day pentathlon. Now, the pentathlon is part of the Olympic sports, usually the Summer Olympics. And it includes fencing, swimming, riding, and a combination of running and shooting during these events. So it's a whole combination of these things. Usually takes about 5 days to go over. Now, what they're doing is they're taking out the riding part, the show jumping part of the pentathlon. And what they're doing is, because what they were saying is, for every 1,000 horses that start, or first of all, let me backtrack. These horses aren't the contestants' horses. They are just random. It's a pool of horses. They get about 20 minutes to jump on these horses, figure out, their quirks and whatever. And they have a time thing where they have to jump over 12 different obstacles during this pentathlon.
Right.
So what they're finding out is, because of this and the unfamiliarity of the rider to the horse, that out of 1,000 of them that are being used, about 4.4% of them are either breaking their legs or doing something. So they're trying to eliminate this part of the pentathlon. So what they're replacing it is with, live from CBS, you're watching Ninja Warrior.
Nice.
So actually what they're going to do, I know this is, fiction becoming real life. The Ninja Warrior competition, are you familiar with that, where the people run and jump on ropes and they swing through the air?
I've seen that. If I ever did, it was an accident.
It's amazing the feats that they actually have to do. So all the stress and stuff that you're putting on the horses and losing horses, now we're just going to revert that stress back onto the human body, and they're replacing the last segment of the pentathlon. Now, this is going to happen in 2028, so you got some time to get yourself in shape, Mike.
Right.
Okay.
I'll be ready.
And they're replacing it with somewhat of an equal obstacle course. That is shown like on the Ninja Warrior, with the incline and decline and running up this 30-foot wall and grabbing the top of it. So real life, or TV life, is now being portrayed in real life. And so that they're taking that part of the equine out of that section, the pentathlon, and replacing it with just the Ninja Warrior type thing.
Right.
So good thing. I would assume that would be a good thing. I mean, if you're out of 1,000 horses, you're losing 4% of them. That's not a good turnaround number.
That's not great. And
but now you got to be in twice as good a shape to do the obstacle, because you have to swim, you have to fence, you have to run, you have to shoot, and then now you got to jump this obstacle course.
Right. That is going to probably up the ante for the participant. On the other end, with the horses, I mean, they don't know these horses. I don't know what kind of riders they are. They're concentrating on a lot of stuff. And if you're putting a horse over jumps and the rider is imbalanced, you're going to cause a lot of strange impacts. And if you got to get in timing with that horse to flow through with it, and if they're out of timing with the horse, cannot get in the center of the horse, they're hanging off one side, and that horse is hitting the ground. Yeah, it does put the horse in a position to be injured.
Just think about just how many hours of training just to do fencing. You know, how many hours of training, hours upon hours and days upon days just to learn fencing. And that's one event out of 5.
Well, if you really want to train on fencing, come to my house, because I got a lot of fence that needs to be replaced.
No, not that kind of fencing.
Oh.
But, I mean, they still don't have you can't dedicate the amount of time that it takes to have a horse in a competition and you're not familiar with it,
right?
As to just the regular people that do like the eventing championships and all the other eventing stuff and dressage and horse racing and stuff, how many hours they put in just in those horses alone just to do one event.
Right.
All right, so what did we learn today, Mike? Welcome back to season 3. I bought another 450 horses.
Right.
Yeah, and Mike's going to shoe every single one of them.
And it's a pretty horse.
And Mike, hold on.
If you need to, we'll knock a bunch of dings in it so you can start using it.
No, Mike. I got to keep that thing pristine.
Oh.
And the advantage and disadvantages as far as the factors to consider about going barefoot on a horse.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about. And as we're taking that horse, transitioning to barefoot, how not to create damage. Most all of them are going to get a little sore-footed. But are we doing damage because we did? There are some things that can cause some damage that down the road will be a problem.
I always think of like, when you come home from church on Sunday, the first things you do is kick those horrible shoes off,
right.
And your feet just feel like, that's the way I picture a horse just getting those things off their feet going,
Truth is, years ago, when you had competition seasons, it was not uncommon to pull shoes off a horse. Years ago, when we could have a good number of horses to compete and room to do it, you could rotate your horses and give your horse some letdown time. And we were not injecting joints, and we were not dealing with tendon ligament injuries like we do now. I can promise you that some of those injuries has definitely been on the rise, because a lot of these horses never get a letdown. During, when we had multiple horses to use, well, one of them, something's starting to be a bit of a problem. We can get them out in the field. We can let them shoes off. We can give the foot a chance to straighten itself out. We can give it enough downtime to heal up, start slowly reconditioning a horse, start bringing another one into your competition team, and let it chance to heal up. We don't operate like that anymore.
All right, guys, make sure you follow us on Facebook, and the way you do that is go to Equine Dynamics / or something like that, Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Follow him on YouTube as well. Make sure you like and subscribe over there. He's got a bunch of videos. He's got a 4-part series if you ever want to learn how to massage your horse. There's that Ray Morris video up there, and that's gaining a lot of ground, a lot of popularity, a lot of legs, as they say, a lot of legs in the business. And make sure you get your question in as well. And the way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page, hit contacts, and fill out that little form there, and we'll send you out some magnets, some stickers, and some Season 3 buttons. Season 3, Mike, starting off with a bang. Mike.
Oh, a bang. Yeah, okay, yeah. It is starting off with a bang.
Yeah. All right, guys, we appreciate each and every one of you downloading us and being a part of the show. We'll let you get back to enjoying the rest of your day. On behalf of Mike Stine over there.
Have a good one.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week. There you go. It takes a minute or two to get back in the swing of things.
Yeah. It could have been worse.
That was fine. That was perfectly fine.
Lucky.
Good night, Ned.
Night, Dusty.
Good night, Ned.
Good night, Ned.